19-year-old Ursula Schulze was abducted at a bus stop in broad daylight the morning of July 13th, 1972, in Brossard, Quebec. The abduction occurred near the girl's home at 8442 Marie Victorien Boulevard before 8 a.m. when a man dragged her into his car. The incident was witnessed by many people. His large hand, he just gripped the girl by the arm and yanked her towards the car, a witness said. The driver of the car was described as 5'5" tall, stocky, about 35 years of age, with black hair and wearing brown clothing. Later, he was described as between 40 and 50 years of age, measuring between 5'6" and 5'8", and weighing between 150 and 170 pounds. Witnesses said he waited for Schulze in the parking lot of Les Terrasses drive-in restaurant. The car was described as dull red, with a fastback roofline, possibly a Toyota or a Datsun. A witness continued with the following extremely detailed account of the abduction. It drove up slowly behind the girl, who was standing with her back towards the car. The car stopped in the middle of the road. The driver got out and walked slowly around the back of the car. The girl just had time to turn her head when the guy rushed and grabbed her with his right arm. The thing I remember most about the man was his large hand. He just gripped the girl by the arm and yanked her towards the car. Opening the door with his other hand, he pushed her inside and jumped on her. All I could see was his rear end sticking out of the car. He must have hit her or something, because when he got up and closed the door, I couldn't see the girl. He went around the car the same way he approached the girl and drove off. He stayed on the service road as far as I know, because I didn't see him take the entrance to the highway. Schulze planned to go shopping for a birthday present for her mother after she got off work at Place d'Armes office on St. James Street, where she worked as a file clerk. Mrs. Schulze described Ursula as impossibly shy. Her parents forced her to take the job as a means of meeting people. Schulze was found dead against the wall behind a vacant soap factory in La Prairie by a truck driver around 4 p.m. on Friday, July 14th. She was found in the bushes near Ranch Saint-Claude, 15 miles from where she had been abducted. One account said Schulze had been strangled Though there were no signs she had been sexually molested, detectives said her hands and arms bore signs of a severe struggle. Another account said that Schulze had been shot through the back of the head at least twice by a small caliber weapon, and there were no signs of struggle at the scene where the body was found. Those who forget the mistakes of history are destined to repeat them. This is who killed Teresa. On Monday, July 17th, Gazette reporter Jim Duff reported that an arrest was pending. The naming of several suspects in the slaying came after a weekend of intensive investigation by detectives from both the Brossard and Quebec police forces. Yet nearly 2 weeks later, QPF detectives admitted they were no nearer to a solution. Despite intensive questioning of witnesses and possible suspects, police have been unable to come up with more than a general description of an automobile and the suspect. 8 months passed. On March 15th, 1973, the following notice appeared in the Montreal Gazette. Quebec Police Commission. Inquiry respecting the police force of the town of Brossard. The Quebec Police Commission will hold a public inquiry regarding the conduct of the members of the police force of the town of Brossard relating to the proceedings, investigations, and necessary steps that were taken at the occasion of the kidnapping of Miss Ursula Schulze, July 13th, 1972. In the limits of this town. The Commission will hold public hearings for this purpose at 10 a.m. on March 27, 1973, at the Social Welfare Court, 410 Belchase Street East, Room 100B, Montreal, Quebec, and thereafter on the dates indicated at the time of adjournments of the above hearings, if any. The public hearing followed complaints from the parents of Ursula Schulze that the Brossard police did not do everything in their power to locate their daughter. Testimony revealed the father of the murdered girl and another daughter went to the Brossard police station the afternoon of the kidnapping and were told, "We'll take care of it later." It was also determined that the Quebec police force was not notified of the abduction until 19 hours after it occurred. Otto Schulze testified that he went to the office of Brossard Police Chief Marcel Renaud with photos of his daughter the afternoon she disappeared. He told me to place the pictures on Blaine's desk, Assistant Director Paul-Émile Blaine. He said Blaine had no time for that right now because he had more important jobs to do, and that he had a tip on something. Chief Renaud told him that Blaine would go to his house in about half an hour for more information on his daughter. Nobody came to the house until 11:30 p.m. that night. Ursula's sister, Angela, who accompanied her father to the police station, continued the testimony. One of the men at the station suggested that my sister might have made off with some guy. She's 19 years old and she's an adult. I told him, not my sister. I know her. Testimony continued. The duty officer at the time did not order roadblocks or inform Quebec Provincial Police, aka the Sûreté du Québec, because this was not standard practice. In fact, there were no directives on what standard practice was in such a case. Other duty officers said they did not know that QPF headquarters was not cut in on the regional network used by municipal forces and thought somebody else had informed the QPF directly. Blaine and the officer in charge of criminal investigations spent the day investigating a report of a robbery by 4 prison escapees, which he told the commission he judged the more serious of the cases. Both he and Director Renault thought the QPF had been informed of the kidnapping and were investigating it. In April 1973, the commission issued its report. While praising the efforts of on-the-ground constables, the report faulted the force director Marcel Renault and his assistant director Paul-Émile Blaine. Learning nothing from the incident and failing to instruct force members on how to handle major crimes, the report went on to say the offhand manner of force superiors, coupled with the ignorance of force members on procedures and how to use regional communication systems, severely hampered the investigation. Brossard Police Chief Renault called the report unfair. It's unfortunate they had to judge my department on one isolated incident. Among the recommendations the Quebec Police Commission recommended were that the police take special courses in criminal inquiries. Renault stated that it was standard practices to send his men to the police academy in Nicolette. Of the 32 policemen I have, I would say only 4 haven't gone to the academy yet. But they will be soon. The report called on Renault to ensure that his men put in more than minimum effort. Renault replied, "What's a minimum effort for a guy who works 14 to 18 hours a day?" Montreal Gazette, Tuesday, July 10th, 1973. Slain girl's parents suing police. The family of Ursula Schulze, the 19-year-old Brossard girl kidnapped and murdered last July, is suing the Brossard Police Department and the Quebec Police Force. A suit is expected tomorrow in Superior Court on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Otto Schulze by lawyer Morris Chakelson. Chakelson said yesterday he is preparing the suit because the Schulzes blamed the two forces for the death. The Schulzes filed two $100,000 court suits claiming police incompetence in the kidnapping death of their daughter. Defendants in the suits were the Quebec government, the Quebec police force, the town of Brossard, and several of the municipality's policemen. Each of the Schulzes sought $50,000 for the loss of their daughter in both actions. No further stories were filed in this matter. It is presumed that the Schulzes settled with the Quebec government privately and never went further with legal proceedings. Despite a good description of Ursula Schulze's abductor and his vehicle, her murderer has never been apprehended. This has been Who Killed Teresa, and I'm your host, John Elor. There's not a great need to editorialize or for me to comment on this episode. If you've listened to the podcast, I think you know exactly the point I'm trying to make with the Ursula Schulze case. I will post on the website www.teresaallore.com. That's TheresaAllore.com. The full text of today's podcast, which was constructed through the use of the archives of the Montreal Gazette newspaper. If you like what you hear on the podcast, please give us a 5-star rating and some comments at wherever you listen, SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes, etc. You can follow us on social media. I'm on Twitter at JusticeGuy, at JUSTUSGUY, or at Teresa Allore, at TheresaAllore on Twitter. Also, there's a Facebook page, Teresa Allore, the podcast. You get the bonus through social media of getting additional information, photos, etc. Nevertheless, there's not many photos, but I will post the photos I have, including a photo of Ursula, on the website and the notice of the Quebec Police Commission for the public inquiry as well. Also a photo of Ursula's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Otto Schulze. We have a YouTube station channel. If you just go to YouTube and search on Teresa Allore, you can find it. There's all kinds of film and video archives of news reports, both in French and English, including the hour-long W5 Canadian investigative journalism program, W5, from CTV Network from, I believe, 2005, which includes the original investigation of the Teresa Allore disappearance and murder. Thanks again for listening. Again, this has been Who Killed Teresa. Have yourselves a great, great afternoon.